I am now entering the last year of my childhood. The year in which I graduate from high school and move on to college. The year in which I have to really start thinking about my future. The year in which I have to say goodbye to a lot of stuff that I love, and also the year in which I have to prepare myself to say goodbye. So throughout this year, I've been reflecting on lots of the stuff that I used to love as a kid. And one of the things that absolutely popped up in my mind eventually was Cars. I mean, it was really hard not to love Cars as a kid. I have very fond memories of watching the films all the time and collecting all of the merchandise. Lightning McQueen was my inspiration. I wanted to be that car. I wanted to transcend my consciousness into a vehicle. That's how big of a fan of this franchise I really was. So of course, as someone who's recently started this channel, I thought, you know what, let's do a video about the Cars lore, because that's a great idea. Unfortunately, as it turns out, this was not a very great idea. And something I realized is if you think about the lore of this thing, if you think about the lore of this series at all, it completely falls apart. And I mean like completely falls apart. So today I will do what many have feared to do, and that is question the lore and the logic of the Cars franchise and probably kill the childhood of everyone watching. So viewer discretion is advised. So to start with, we have the very important question that everyone asks all the time. Why are the Cars alive? How are the Cars alive? How does this make sense? Well, how does it make sense? So I'm thinking about this, and I did a bit of searching, and it turns out there's this little thing called the Pixar theory, which essentially connects every single Pixar movie, and it's all in like this one like massive timeline that spawns like centuries or something. Something that a lot of people have theorized is it's a mix of technology rising, like in The Incredibles. It also has something to do with Toy Story, where how the toys came to life was from their owners playing with them. So a lot of people theorize maybe the personalities of the cars are the personalities of the people who drove the cars. Then, of course, this obviously happens before the apocalyptic world that we see in WALL-E. I considered this for a while, and I was like, okay. So I did some more digging, and it turns out the reason there are like newer cars, like next gen cars and like Cars 3, is because the cars will wake up in a certain era. Like Doc Hudson woke up in a earlier era than Lightning McQueen. The cars would just wake up, I guess. So that takes the reproduction question out of the picture, which I was very relieved about until I started thinking more. And then I realized there is a kid in Cars 3. There is a kid car. There is a car that is a kid, meaning these things reproduce. Which opens up all the questions again. Suddenly, every single question is back. Like, how do the cars reproduce? How does a car get pregnant? How does a car, release a baby? And then, if there's kid cars, do they actually grow up to become big cars so cars can grow? How does that make any sense? But it doesn't just stop there, because there are next-gen cars, as I said, and Lightning McQueen is a newer generation car than, let's say, Doc Hudson. So let's say older generation cars, do the thing, and they, produce a younger car. Why do the cars evolve? Are they like in such a short period of time? Like, let's just think about this for a sec. If these were all humans, do we like does every new generation of human just look different? I don't know. I'm just very confused. And they're also classified as, trucks and vans and kind of thing. They're still classified as that. And that just, I don't know, just opens up so many, and I mean so many questions just from the one kid car. So we know these things reproduce. So can they eat? How do they get food? Do they have mouths? They have a reproductive system. They might have organs. So how do they eat? Well, we see them with little cans, like juice, essentially. They have these cans with straws that they're sipping out of. What's weirder about this, though, is that in Cars 2, Mater mentions ice cream. And that's an absolute game changer, because that means food is a thing in their world. So essentially, all of these foods are Cars canon, meaning, they have to let all the food out. And they do have bathrooms, and as we saw in Cars 2, the bathrooms are very, very, very strange. Like, I'm sorry, these things are more like torture devices than they are actual bathrooms. It seems like when they go to the bathroom, they leak oil. So then I guess they have water sprayed up, areas. So they can somehow eat. They have possibly a reproductive system. So when they get in a car crash, for example, it doesn't seem to affect them very much. Like, Lightning McQueen got in a really big car wreck in Cars 3. The King also got in a bad crash, and even though he was going to retire from racing anyway, both of them were fine after that. And that makes me wonder, is the only way to kill a car to blow them up? Or does it depend on the car? Because with the exception of one really poorly put together car that fell all these stories into water and just you see all his parts just floating up. Okay, can we also just take a moment to consider that Finn McMissile has organs in his trunk? He has car parts in his trunk that he releases to make it look like he died when he made his big escape at the beginning of the film. Does anyone realize how messed up that is? But anyways, back to what I was saying. These cars, unless they're super poorly put together, for the most part, the only way it seems you can kill them is with, I guess, this camera thing, and if it's put on a really high setting and you're going really fast, they can blow up. But Doc Hudson also died, so can these things die of old age? Because I think in real life, if you have a car from the 40s, I don't think there's too many cars from the 40s that work nowadays. What I'm thinking is the two ways you can really actually kill a car. You can badly injure them in probably a lot of ways. But the only ways you can actually kill a car is by, blowing them up. Because the only other way they die is of natural causes. And then there's another thing, and it's that, did the cars kill the humans? Did the cars come to life and kill the humans? Again, there is the Pixar theory thing, but I'm getting very weary on the whole Pixar theory thing after that kid showed up in Cars 3 and has completely just changed everything. But again, did the cars kill the human? Because the cars have tires. The cars do not have hands. How did the cars build all of these giant buildings and, big Bentley and stuff like that? How did they build all that? With tires. How did they build these structures, and why are there giant mountains shaped like cars? How did that happen? I'm just very curious as to how this world works. And not only that, but there are bugs. There are bug cars. There are little beetles that are like the slug bugs. There are also crabs. Cruz Ramirez says she does not want to hit a crab. But are the crabs actual car crabs? What kind of vehicle is a crab? Or is a crab a real crab? Which in that case, are there actual animals in this world that are not cars? And if that is the case, that absolutely blows my mind. But we don't know because we never actually saw the crab. And another thing to be very considerate about is that there is a car Jesus. Because there is a car priest. Meaning car Catholicism is a thing. Meaning car religion is a thing. Sarge is military. Meaning there were wars with cars fighting each other, with, assuming, probably the same way the spies fought in Cars 2, with machine guns popping out of them and fighting each other like that. But again, then you also have to consider, if there were car wars, what kind of car wars were there? Because was Hitler a thing? I wonder if he was some German model of car or something. But something to consider is most of these wars spawned in some way from race. So was racism a thing in the Cars universe, and how was it a thing? Because all of the cars are different colors, different types of cars. Honestly, the Cars universe seems to be in a better state than our universe in terms of just how accepting everyone is of one another. And that's that's very concerning to say the least. So most of these wars couldn't have happened then because most of them spawned from race. Like, can you honestly tell me Hitler had it out for trucks or whatever, like, or whatever type of car? Like, no, I don't think so. Okay, so essentially what I'm trying to get at here is that if you think about the Cars universe, it completely falls apart. I think there are just those franchises where you just have to enjoy the ride, enjoy the themes that are being presented, and the message of said movie or show, and just, think about how any of it makes sense. Why are there dinosaurs in this?